So, dieting, fat loss. Where do we start? So, I've just finished a 9-month diet. So I've been trying to drop body fat for around 9 months. 265 days to be exact. Now what you're about to see on the screen is a photo of where I started. So at this point I am 107 kilos. And now what you're gonna see is where I currently am at, or that of when the photo shoot happened, which was on the 30th of September. As you can see there, quite a bit of difference. So if you've not firstly already gone and seen my photo shoot video, then you need to click just up there because that's where you're gonna find it. But all up, I lost 29 kilos of weight. So total weight, some of that's gonna be a little bit muscle, mostly, obviously, fat and water. Now, I wanted to make this video purely because I wanted to put the negative effects of dieting into context. Now, it's something that doesn't get spoken about a lot, and it's something that I feel I'm in a good position right now after finishing my photo shoot recently to talk about, because the negative effects of dieting far outweigh the positive, far outweigh. You generally want to, or would want to get into shape for an event, whether that's stepping on stage, whether that's doing a photo shoot as I did, whatever it sort of might be. Now, long term, yes, the positive benefits are going to far outweigh the negative, but going throughout the protocol, we're talking about a lot of psychological and physiological downsides. And that's what I want to touch on in today's vlog. Now, the goal for me, why I did the photo shoot, was to be able to create a happier, healthier lifestyle. But as you saw in the previous photo, or my starting photo, I was not the healthiest. Now, for me, that's holding on to a lot of body fat. Yes, I do have a decent amount of muscle mass there as well. I mean, I've never not trained before. I've been training for a while, but I've never got into the shape that I got into. So mainly it was, yes, about creating a happier, healthier lifestyle, but also it was about changing behavioral patterns. Now, behavioral patterns is essentially what we do on a day-to-day basis subconsciously. We do certain things in a certain way without even thinking about it. So whether that's going to a restaurant and generally ordering a entree, a main, and a dessert, or whether that's going to the movies and ordering a certain type of popcorn, and you have to, when you go to the movies, get a chocolate, and then you have to get a slushie and whatever it sort of might be. It's also going out to social gatherings as well and going, okay, this is my drink of choice, here's what I do. And we do this over and over and over again in all aspects of life. So behavior is what we do on a day-to-day basis without even thinking about it. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to change my behaviors. As you saw there, I got into quite an unhealthy shape and an unhealthy state in my life purely because of the behaviors that I was in my life. I was performing or doing things in an unhealthy manner because, I mean, quite frankly, that's what I've always done. If you have dieted before or got to very low levels of body fat, you've probably experienced some, if not all of the things we're going to talk about in today's vlog. So I think it's very important to be able to touch on these because if you've not done it before, not dieted, or you do want to get really, really lean, then these are some of the things that you're going to probably come up against. Now, let's put this into context again. This is not to put you off dieting. Dieting is a great process in terms of being able to challenge yourself, push yourself, and grow internally and externally. Also, it gives you a really, really good goal to be able to get to if you do want to drop body fat. It's not only going to get you healthier, it's going to change behavioral patterns as we just touched on, but it's also going to change you physiologically and psychologically. Now, those are the two concepts we're going to be talking mainly about today: the physiological negative effects and also the psychological negative effects. What I do implore you to do is, before you start any health and fitness journey, is to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. So often, especially in today's day and age with the rise of social media, we're seeking external validation from people that we don't even know and generally who don't give a shit about us as well. We want to get into better shape for people to tell us how good we look. We want to get into better shape for people to reach out and potentially have brand deals. Whatever the reason is that you're doing it, make sure it's not for the reason of validation, because let me tell you that in the long term, it will come back to bite you in the ass, especially from a psychological standpoint. Don't do things for other people, do things for yourself. So if you are going to diet, make sure first and foremost you know why you're doing what you're doing, because the journey you're about to embark on is going to be a real fucking challenge, I'll tell you that. So the psychological to start with. Some of the psychological aspects, and probably the biggest one I think that I could think of right now, is binge eating. So oftentimes when we're dieting, we are going to cut out foods that we probably enjoy a hell of a lot. Foods that we find hyper palatable, which means basically you can't just stop at one, okay? So that's like me with cheesecake. After I have one bite, I'm gonna go to town on that thing, okay? No one's gonna stop me. Nothing's gonna get in my way. So binge eating happens a lot of the times where we completely eliminate everything that we love and everything that we enjoy for prolonged periods of time. And you've probably heard of the dreaded rebound effects when people step on stage or people do a photo shoot or whatever it might be, get to extreme levels of low levels of body fat, that they just want to gorge and have this rebound effect because they can't stop themselves. Once they get that little hit of serotonin, that nice little happy feel-good hormone, they just cannot stop themselves. And binge eating is a real psychological issue for a lot of people. Not even necessarily if you're going to get to low levels of body fat. You've probably experienced it before, going out on weekends or just on a Tuesday night, going out with your friends for pizza night, and you just cannot stop gorging down on this delicious, incredibly tasty meal. So binge eating is one of the things you got to really look out for and really be wary of whilst you are going through your dieting process. So what I advise you do with binge eating is not completely eliminate all the foods you love right away. As you start to make progress along your journey, what you're going to find is that it's easier to take out the foods that you may absolutely love or find hyper palatable because you're more motivated. You've gotten to a stage where you've created a little bit more positive behavioral patterns. If you indulge on cookies every single day and you completely wipe them out, all you're going to do is crave cookies for a long time. And once you start to have one or even something sugary, you're going to want to revert back. So what I advise you do is first and foremost figure out your macros and calories and things and try and fit the foods that you enjoy into your nutrition plan, especially initially. We want to make slow progress. You don't have to get, for example, look, in my case, I dropped 29 kilos. I didn't have to get 29 kilos of weight loss dropped immediately. All I had to focus on was the first kilo or the first 500 grams. And to do that, I still put into my nutrition plan the foods that I enjoyed. Remember, with this, it's not about going from zero to hero. It's about going from where you are to the next step. And then from there to the next step, and from there to the next step. Creating unhealthy relationships is also a massive psychological issue that goes along with dieting. So you can create unhealthy relationships with the scale, you can create unhealthy relationships with your body image, with your partner, with certain foods. Now, all these unhealthy relationships are going to happen because the body is in a very stressed out state. Dieting for a prolonged period of time, first and foremost, is not a healthy thing to do. The body's always trying to find balance or homeostasis. So what I advise you to do to try and prevent some of these psychological issues is firstly with the scale, create a healthy relationship with that scale. Understand that fat loss and weight loss is not linear. It's not just going to keep coming down, okay? It's going to fluctuate, especially for females around that time of the month, around your menstrual cycle. It's going to fluctuate a little bit more. You're going to hold on to more water, so increase water retention. Guys as well, yours, obviously you don't really have that time of the month. Some of you might, I don't really know. I've got a good friend who definitely does have that. I definitely question that. But if you are a male or female, regardless of what it is, your weight is going to fluctuate, okay? Remember, the body is not a mathematical equation, it is a scientific one. So there's lots of physiological processes that are going on within our body that we can't monitor day to day or second to second. So in the scale, I want you to just really understand that it's gonna fluctuate, okay? So we can also create negative relationships with our body image, so the way we're looking. Again, fat loss is not linear. You're not just going to keep going and dropping body fat and dropping more and more. You're going to get to a stage where you feel nothing's happening for a little while. The most important thing to do is to just stay consistent. Don't change a thing and monitor all your metrics, like your calories and macros, like your steps, like your cardio, like tracking your weight, making your sleep. making sure that you're monitoring as many metrics as you possibly can so that you can stay healthy throughout your journey. And then if you need to make a change, at least you can justify it rather than thinking to yourself, oh, I've not dropped weight this week, I'm going to change everything, because that's definitely something you shouldn't do. Also, creating negative relationships with your partner, the people around you, and your friends is a really important one. You're going to be more moody, you're going to be more irritable. Again, you're in a more stressed out state. So what I advise you do is communicate. Communicate with your partner throughout your journey. Emma, my girlfriend, was absolutely amazing during this prep because we'd sort of been through something a little bit before in terms of we did a photo shoot, and we were very, very open with how we were feeling with each other. If I was being a pain in the ass, which I fucking was a lot of the time, I would first and foremost make sure that I would try to hold back, and if I couldn't, I would let it out, but then I would apologize very, very quickly and look, I'm really, really sorry. I did whatever I did, I said whatever I said, and then it would help us have this really productive communication between us saying, yeah, I know I'm struggling, or she knew I was struggling, and we talked through it. So really focus on communicating with your partner, because remember, it's you dieting, not them. It's your choice to make progress on this journey, not them. Food is another massive one that you can create a really unhealthy relationship with. I'd previously dieted, and I did it really, really unhealthy way. I'd crash dieted, which basically means just plummet calories, increase energy expenditure for a really prolonged period of time. I got to the stage where I was obsessed with the food channel. Never watched it before in my life, but I was obsessed with the food channel. I would follow food pages on Instagram and literally spend hours and hours a day, even during my workouts, staring at food pages. If you guys follow The Rock, he'd often put like his epic cheat meals and stuff up. I would literally look at the meals that he was putting up in my workouts, in my rest times, just to try and get by and try and get a little bit of satisfaction, which is absolutely fucked up. So don't get to that stage and create unhealthy relationships with food. And again, it goes back to doing dieting. If you are going to go through a fat loss journey, then I would seek guidance and help to start with, and not just think that you can drop calories and increase energy expenditure, because that is a surefire way to drop the ball essentially in the long run. It's a surefire way to fail in the long run. That's just some of the psychological impacts of, or negative impacts of dieting. I'm sure there's many, many more, but I wanted to touch on a little bit on the physiological, so biological, so internal in the body. One of the biggest ones is decreased sex drive. So just be aware of that, guys. The old general up in the morning is probably going to get demoted by a few ranks, probably even less than sergeant. Okay, so just be aware of that you're not going to get morning glory quite as often, and you're not going to be as horny either. That goes for girls as well. As we start to diet, our sex hormones start to down-regulate as well, so they stop functioning quite as well, because the body, again, when we're trying to diet and drop body fat, it cares about survival, and if it needs to decrease, reproduction is not at the top of the list for survival, okay? So what it basically wants to do is decrease your sex hormones to try and utilize those nutrients elsewhere, i.e. to function your brain and your heart and your organs, just to try and stay alive. So sex is probably going to start to take a little bit of a hit. So my advice would be get as much as you can very early on in your journey, just so that you can actually get some and create that really good connection, physical connection at least, with your partner. Sleep patterns are also going to be disrupted. Yes, sleep is essential for survival, but because of the elevated stress level, elevated cortisol levels, things like your melatonin levels, your body's major sleep hormone, are going to start to downregulate as well. So just be aware that sleep's going to start to be disrupted. So what I advise in that circumstance is making sure that your sleep hygiene or your sleep routine, nighttime routine, is on point. So making sure that you are turning blue lights off 1 to 2 hours before bed, making sure that you're reducing liquid intake leading up to bed, making sure that you are doing some mindfulness, like writing your gratitude journal, or doing some meditation using an app like Calm or Headspace or something of that nature, doing some static stretching before bed, reading before bed as well, something that is a little bit like more of a novel rather than something, a business book or something like that, okay? So really focus on sleep hygiene, and then if you need to, supplements can help. Some of my favorite supplements are the ones that I did use throughout my particular prep. And it's something that I don't advise going straight away, but as you sort of progress, you might need to use something to help. So I used magnesium, so magnesium infused with inositol helped me a lot. I use melatonin itself, and also a supplement called 5-HTP, which stands for 5-hydroxytryptophan, which essentially is a precursor to serotonin and melatonin. Okay, so those are the ones that I particularly used to try and help with sleep. We touched on this before, but you will be a moody twat, basically, okay? You are gonna be stressed out more than ever, and you're not gonna mean to. This is gonna be very, on a very subconscious level, but you're probably gonna lash out, you're probably gonna get irritated at things that you normally wouldn't be irritated by, and if things generally do irritate you, you're gonna find them really fucking stressful. So just be aware that you're going to be an irritable little shit. So make sure that you are communicating to the people around you, especially the people you care about, that you are struggling going through your dieting phase. And it is important that you do address that and do communicate that, because otherwise they'll just think you're an absolute dick. And if you are dieting for a prolonged period of time, again, in my case, 9 months or 265 days, then that's a long time to be an irritable twat. So what I suggest you do in that circumstance is be really forthcoming with the people around you, telling them exactly how you're feeling and that you are struggling. Don't be afraid of that. Doesn't make you a pussy. Another thing, more of a miscellaneous thing I think is important to touch on is time. When you're dieting for a comp or a show or something like that, it takes a lot of fucking time to be able to go through, whether that's doing your workouts, doing your steps, doing your cardio, whatever the protocol is going to be. It does take a lot of time out of your schedule. So again, you need to be really focused on the people around you and making sure you're spending time with them when you can, making sure that they're aware that you are going through this particular process and you are going to be spending less time with them for a small period of time, especially if you have young families, making sure that you do prioritize them as well as your journey, because yes, they are always going to be I guess at the top of the sort of priority ladder, but so is your goal. You know, don't diminish and don't think that you're a bad person for putting more effort and more love and more time into what you want to do out of your life, because ultimately it's going to benefit them in the long run anyway. So just be aware that it's going to take a lot of time to be able to do your prep and photo shoot or whatever your journey is going to sort of be. Going back to doing why you're doing what you're doing, be really honest with yourself about what you want out of doing what you're doing, whether that is a show or a photo shoot, or you just want to get healthier or fit in your wedding dress or whatever it sort of might be. And know the difference if you are going to go to the extreme. There's a difference between getting stage lean, so competition, bodybuilding, physique, fitness, whatever that sort of might be. Phone. There's a difference between that and getting ready for a photo shoot. For example, so I got ready for a photo shoot, but I didn't get to the level of stage lean that some people do go to. They go to that extreme, and they need to because it's part of the sport, it's part of the competition. So be really aware of what you're actually wanting out of this. If you need to go, if you want to go get on stage, great. I think it's a phenomenal thing to be able to do, and I do advise, regardless of what the goal is, I do advise everyone go through some sort of, I guess, challenging or extreme fat loss or building muscle or health and fitness journey, because it does really challenge you and it does help you grow in ways that you would never have expected. So I do advise that if you want to challenge, is to go through something, find something ridiculously difficult and go for it, because you will love the person that you become along the way. But again, going back to what you sort of want out of this, really search internally, as you know, hippie-ish or spiritual, whatever it is that sounds. Really search internally about why you're doing what you're doing, whether that is to be healthier, whether that is because your doctor told you that if you don't get healthier, you're gonna die soon or you're gonna take off years of your life, whether that is doing a photo shoot, whether that is getting on stage, whatever it might sort of be. Really search for internal validation rather than external validation. So if you can justify and validate why you're doing what you're sort of doing and you're happy with that, that's all that matters. We've talked about a few of the negative things and also a few of the little things that are gonna help you throughout your journey, or my advice at least, but there is also some other things that I think would help you guys a hell of a lot. So I advise getting as much biofeedback or internal feedback as you possibly can from your body's health markers. Remember, the goal here is to get to where you want to be as healthy as possible, because it's not how far you get, it's how long you can stay there. So getting to where you want to sort of be is great, but if you can't sustain it, then the whole thing's just absolutely pointless. So one of the biggest things that I recommend you guys doing is getting a blood pressure cuff. So blood pressure cuff, this thing, or a blood pressure monitor, is the one that I use. You know, you've probably seen it before at your local doctors or your local healthcare center, and it looks like this. So this little thing, there's, you got the little cuff and it goes in your arm and you test your blood pressure. So that's something I definitely advise doing. That, I think I turned it on. That is gonna be great. Sorry, it's the blood pressure cuff that's vibrating. I swear to God, it's nothing else. So when we're looking at the gold standard of blood pressure is 115/75 from the top of my head. So it's 115 on the top number, the systolic, 75 on the diastolic. So what we want to really focus on there is, if you don't have access to a blood pressure cuff, first and foremost, go to your doctor. There's certain chemists and stuff, especially around Australia, that you can go and just get it done. But I definitely advise getting one. That one cost me like 30 or 40 Australian dollars, and you can test it out at home. It's very important to be able to test your blood pressure. Blood pressure is key to life, basically. If you get into stage 2 hypertension, then you're on a really fast downward spiral. But it also helps you balance out your sympathetic to parasympathetic outputs as well, i.e. your stress level. So if that blood pressure is crazy high, then you know you might need to back off training, or you might need to spend a bit of more time doing some aerobic work, which is going to help improve blood pressure as well. So blood pressure cuff is definitely something that I highly recommend. We spoke about mood irritability, we spoke about sex drive as well, so definitely be very, I guess the number one key there, at least from my perspective, is communication. Be really open to your partners and the people around you. If you are going to be very moody or irritable, or your sex drive is going to start to drop and life feels like it's going to suck for the rest of it, but it's going to be okay. It's a short amount of time. You'll be absolutely fine. Once you start to bump up your calories, your sex drive will come back quite quickly. So you'll be fine there. Going forward, when we're looking at specific sex hormones, ladies, this is for you. If you lose your period, it is not a fucking good thing, okay? You are meant to have your period, okay? It is there, it's designed for reproduction, okay? So ladies, if you are going through prep and your coach or whoever, or even if you're just prepping yourself, if you've gotten to the stage where you've lost your period, you need to stop what you're doing immediately and you need to go and see your doctor. Do not see it as a good thing. I literally had people before say to me, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, okay? I get it, it's uncomfortable, I get it. It can be a pain in the ass every single month. However, you're designed for it, okay? So please do not get to the level where your body is so stressed out that you lose your menstrual cycle. Injuries and niggles can also start to happen, especially because you're going through quite a prolonged period of exercise. Especially if it's your first prep into doing whatever you're going to do, then injuries and niggles can happen a hell of a lot. So what I advise you do is really focus on optimizing recovery, whether that is doing yoga classes, Pilates, but I definitely recommend on top of that to do some self myofascial release and do some stuff on your own. Personally, for me, I used this. So this is the Strike Recovery Stealth Gun. Essentially, it's a quick hit the little thing there, and then off you go. So again, it just helped me stay loose and it helped me make sure that I was healthy during my prep so that I didn't prolong any little niggles or injuries or anything like that. So mainly make sure you look after yourself. If you do want to grab one of those guns, you can use my discount code. Not that I take anything from it, but it's just Abby25. All my clients can use it. And I mean, you guys are viewers, so I assume that we're communicating as like clients, not that you're paying clients or anything like that. But if you just use the discount code ABBY25, which I'll put across the screen here, I'll also put a link to Strike Recovery as well below, and you'll get $25 off, which I think is a pretty cool deal. What I also suggest is really find the foods that you find hyper palatable and making sure that you're very aware around those. So, as we touched on before, the foods that you find hyper palatable is the ones that you just can't stop eating. So, with those foods, I would progressively start tapering them back rather than eliminating them straight away, just because we don't want to try and create, again, negative association with food, and we don't want to try and create negative behavioral patterns towards things that you enjoy in life. Remember, this journey is meant to be enjoyable. And I guess lastly is focus on playing the long game. So don't think that you can get to where you want to sort of be in 8, 12 weeks. I mean, you might be able to if you're in a good starting position, but for most people, play the long game. Remember, this is a lifestyle change. It's something that you're going to do to change your life forever for the better. So definitely focus on playing the long game. Again, I spent 9 months doing that. Long fucking time, but then I know now I'm in a good space where I can maintain the look that I want to look, and I can progress into my other goals. Another thing that I advise for you guys to do is have an exit strategy. So don't wait till the end of your journey and then just go, now what? Because what you're going to probably tend to do is you're probably going to be overworking out all that time anyway, so you're probably going to stop training, and then you're going to start eating foods that you enjoy again, and the cycle sort of begins again of why you got, you know, overweight and unhealthy and fat in the first place. You know, I've been there, hence the before photos. But I would focus on having an exit strategy. So know exactly what you're going to do at the end. So for me, for example, I knew that I wanted to reverse diets. Ideally, I try and advise everyone to go up to their new maintenance calories, at least, as quickly as possible. But I know for me, psychologically, I knew that I needed to slowly reverse my way out of where I was at, and I know that that would be a much better thing for me to be able to do. And now I'm doing that, and it feels way better. Like I just know that that was a better option for me. So definitely have an exit strategy. And that is it. Signing off for today's vlog, guys. I hope you enjoyed that and my take on the negative effects of diet after personally going through it myself. Also training clients to go through things such as this, whether that's stepping on stage or for photo shoots or whatever it sort of might be. But I think it's a really important topic. So if you did like this video, I would love it if you shared it with somebody that would get some benefit out of it, or someone who's struggling in their own health and fitness journey. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'd love to know what you've been sort of going through, if you are going through a fat loss prep, or you are dieting, or whatever it sort of might be. Drop me a comment below. I'd love to be able to have a discussion, or if not, jump on Instagram, drop me a DM on there. That's how most people communicate with me. But I'd love to be able to start this conversation to ultimately help create more positive behavioral patterns in everyday life with people, so that we can try and mitigate some of these negative effects and actually keep moving forward to create a happier, healthier, more sustainable lifestyle. So thank you so much for watching again. Have a great day.